that, right, then it becomes easier to prey upon these fears and these insecurities and to not deal with the real problem. And the real problem which besets working people, disproportionately of color, but not only people of color, is we have an economy in which, as you well know, the wealthiest 1/10 of people own the same amount of stuff as the bottom 90%. An economy in which about 37 people have the same amount of net worth as the bottom 50%. That's 165 million Americans who have the same amount of stuff as 37 Americans, right? We have 6 people whose last name happens to be Walton, who are heirs to the Walmart fortune, 5 of them by birth, 1 by marriage. Those 6 people have the same net worth as the bottom 40% of the American population. 127 million people over here, approximately 6 people over here, and yet Walmart, the biggest employer in the country, used to be GM, not now, the biggest employer in the country and one of the wealthiest companies on the planet, continues to pay the vast majority of their workers wages that aren't enough to live on. So those workers then comprise, interesting to point out, the biggest single chunk of SNAP beneficiaries in any given community. SNAP, what we used to call food stamps. The biggest single demographic. It's not black folks, it's certainly not Latino folk, it's not even poor white folks per capita. Per capita, the biggest single demographic group in most communities receiving SNAP are people who work at Walmart. And where, pray tell, do you think they redeem their SNAP benefits? At Walmart. $13.5 billion of SNAP redemption each year with the wealthiest company on the face of the earth. Now, is that a scam or what? You are basically having to subsidize the wages of workers at the wealthiest company going because they don't want to pay their people enough, so they, 6 people, own the same amount as 127 million of y'all, but they're like, nope, you got to help us pay our people. You got to help us make sure that our people don't starve. We can't do that. Those 6 people own so much stuff. Just to put in perspective what that is, 6 people versus 127 million people. Those 6 people have enough that they could buy up every house, every condo, every townhome in the city of Seattle, or in the city of Dallas, or in the city of Miami, and still have $40 billion left.
Stop.
With which they could buy up every house, every condo, every townhome in Napa if they like wine, or Anaheim if their grandkids like Disney. And they would still have $4 to $5 billion left. Right? Just to put this in some perspective, I know some people who don't think racism is a problem will always say things like, well, what about Oprah? You know. She's rich. What about Oprah? Yeah, Oprah's rich. You know how rich Oprah is? She has enough money that she could buy all the houses in Mokina, Illinois, wherever that is. Right? So Oprah is Mokina rich. That ain't rich. That's not Dallas, Seattle, Miami, Napa, Anaheim rich. That's Mokina, Illinois rich. I'm not impressed anymore. I used to be impressed, not impressed now. In perspective, it means very little, right? That's the situation we have right now. That's the economy that we live in. That's where the focus needs to be, right? But instead, we get distracted with all these other things, and then working class white folks don't see their commonality of interest until we're able to point out that commonality, until we're able to point out that we're all being played for fools by a system that was predicated upon a very, very narrow elite taking away virtually all the benefits of that system, and the rest of us fighting over the pieces of a pie that not one of us owns. We're never going to get anywhere in this country. So what's happened to you in Flint is part of the drama of what happened in Baltimore. It's part of the drama of what happened in New Orleans. It's part of the drama going all the way back, if you really want to be serious, all the way back to the 1600s in the colonies. And until we get to a place where we can see the bright line between A and Z, between past and present, and understand that everything has a precedent. Like I say, there are no accidents, just precedents, right? No accidents. Things don't just happen, things get done. And if we want to change that and reverse that, we're going to have to be as deliberate on this end as they were on that end. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. I appreciate it.